What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be theorizing what it would be like if there was an additional shifter in Attack on Titan that was specifically made to be underwater. A Titan of that nature would have completely changed naval warfare, given that it would be like a one-person mini-submarine that can also just start throwing punches. In this video I'll be breaking down all the abilities that I think a Sea Titan would need to have, but there are a couple important things worth mentioning first. Number one is that pretty much any Titan can survive in the water because breathing is not required for them to live, essentially meaning there is no chance of a Titan ever dying from drowning, and I assume the same rule presumably applies to Titan shifters as well. In the end credits for Season 3, we saw pure Titans casually emerging from the ocean like it was nothing, and in the manga it confirmed beyond any doubt that they can swim without needing to come up for air. That being said though, even though Titans can survive in the water, none of them have features that are specifically made for that environment. Hence why Magath said that they can't intervene when it comes to naval conflicts. The second thing I wanted to point out before we get into it was that although an underwater shifter doesn't exist, it's entirely possible that a previous Beast Titan was based off a sea creature, whether it be a whale, a shark, or even a giant Titan squid. In my opinion, the opening for Season 2 definitely implied that might have been the case, and also a T-Rex as well. But without further ado, let's move over to what powers the Sea Titan should have, and don't forget to smash that sub button if you haven't already. Okay, so starting with its design, most of the body would be covered in blue scales made from a new type of Titan hardening, giving the shifter a degree of camouflage in the water and also allowing it to glide faster. The scales help to reduce water resistance, so when you combine that feature with its insane physical strength, webbed hands, and the right swimming technique, it can propel itself faster through the ocean than any actual sea creature. At its top speed, it can swim from the shore of Paradise to the Malian continent in just under 5 hours, although it might take longer in reality depending on the experience of the user. At the front of its mouth is a special organ that was initially inspired by humpback whales, as those creatures can emit a low-frequency sound wave to communicate with other whales over ridiculously long distances. For the underwater Titan, this organ can emit a continuous pulse that is sent through paths, which can only be felt by the holders of the other Titan shifters. Once the pulse is received, they all become aware of the underwater Titan's location, with the signal getting more powerful the closer they get. The pulse works regardless of whether the shifter is on land or sea, and it can be used as an SOS signal that would lead allies towards its location. The downside is that enemy Titan shifters would also know where the underwater Titan is hiding, however with the right tactics that could be a good thing for luring the opposition into a trap. In order to fully explain what I mean by that, let's imagine a scenario in which Paradise are the ones who had this shifter, as it would have made their strategy a lot more effective during the declaration of war. Instead of sending in Yelena to try and trap the warriors, the Sea Titan could have camped underneath the Malian port and released a pulse that all the warriors would have felt. That pulse would be felt incredibly strongly by them considering the port isn't that far away from where they were, and I reckon Porker would immediately storm off in that direction. Peak would probably be following behind him to make sure he doesn't get himself killed, while Zeke would volunteer to remain near the stage since he'd be planning to hitch a ride on the airship pretty soon. Lara Taiba would have felt the pulse as well and would likely tell her brother straight away, but as the final season made clear, Willie knew he was going to be attacked and was fully prepared to die, so in my mind I have no doubt that he'd still go ahead with his declaration. Anyway, remember that the first main step in the attack on Liberio was to prevent as many shifters as possible from getting in Eren's way. So at the port, the underwater Titan would continue to generate that pulse until at least one of the Malian warriors arrive. I think Peak would be skeptical of Paradise's decision to make their presence known like this, although for the sake of this example, we'd have to imagine that they would still go towards it. Once those two show up at the port, then of course the pulse would be revealed to be a diversion, as the Sea Titan could propel itself far away at top speed while the Colossal tags in and blows the place up. By swimming away, the Sea Titan can quickly escape the blast radius, but those who wouldn't be able to escape include thousands of civilians, any nearby ships, and most importantly 2 Titan shifters that now can't intervene in the main battle and also can't intervene in any future battle as well. In this example, you can see how the pulse being sent to all shifters can be a big benefit for luring enemies into traps, and in that aspect the Colossal and Sea Titans would make a nice tag team. Moving on, when it comes to the amount of transformations a shifter can do in a single day, there are a few factors involved, including the energy required to make it, the natural endurance of that Titan, and sometimes the extent of the user's injuries. For the Sea Titan, however, I imagine there would be a different factor that has the biggest impact, and that is whether or not the user is on dry land or in the water when they're attempting to transform. I kind of felt like there needed to be one more thing that would make sure the shifter stays in the water most of the time, given that in theory someone could just decide to use this mainly on land even though it wasn't necessarily designed for that. Bearing that in mind, if the user of the underwater Titan is on the surface, then they can only transform one time and they won't be able to do it again until their human body is completely submerged in water. It doesn't necessarily have to be water from the ocean. I mean, I guess it could be a lake or a public pool, but as long as the specific criteria is met and the human body is in the water completely, then it should be able to do a maximum of 5 consecutive transformations on a given day. Additionally, as you would expect from a shifter with this name, its eyes would have adapted so it sees better underwater compared to the other Titans. In all honesty, I have no idea how clearly most Titans can see when they're submerged in water, but all I know is that for me personally, without goggles it looks like I'm seeing things in 240p resolution. A shifter made for the water definitely shouldn't have that type of problem, although if it starts going hundreds and hundreds of meters deep, then yeah, it might need to get a flashlight. With that all explained, I guess the final feature to mention is that its height would be 17 meters tall, putting it in the same class as the Beast Titan, and it would have enough stamina for around 6 to 10 hours of intense swimming a day. If Mali had this thing, then it's guaranteed they'd use it for naval warfare, as Commander Magath revealed the Malian navy was lacking compared to other countries. With a Titan like this, they'd likely use it to destroy enemy fleets by charging into the battleships one by one, but inevitably the other nations would develop technology to specifically counter this threat. As a random side note, if this was an actual Titan, then I'm fairly certain there would be a brutal swimming schedule added to the Malian warrior candidate program. On the flip side, Parodies could have really done with this shifter themselves, as it's pretty much the perfect Titan to have if you're going to send a spy to learn more about Mali. If we had to pick someone to inherit it who is not already a Titan shifter, then I'd say it would probably go to Jean or maybe Hanji, but the trouble with her is that yes, she would gather the most information, but she's also the most likely to blow her cover without Levi there to keep her in check. Anyhow, in summarizing the abilities of the Sea Titan, it has a couple physical features to help it glide faster through the water, and at its top speed it should be the fastest sea creature on the planet. Obviously the speed varies depending on the experience of the user and how well they've been trained, but as a general rule it should take no longer than 7 total hours to swim from Mali to Paradise. Importantly, it also has the power to send a continuous pulse through paths that will always alert other shifters to its location. The strength of the pulse will give each individual shifter a good idea of how close or far away they might be, and although the pulse is continuous, it can be turned on and off at any given time. Thirdly, the Sea Titan has good eyesight in the water and can transform a maximum of once a day on the surface, but 5 times overall. Let me know down below in the comments what do you think of this Titan, and also who in Paradise would be chosen to inherit it if the island somehow managed to take it for themselves. Thanks for watching as always, and if you haven't seen it already then don't forget to check out my video on the Past Titan, as that was the other shifter I thought would be a cool addition to the series. Until the next one, peace out.